Thank you all for joining us for our third virtual town hall panel. This panel is sponsored by the City of Steamboat Springs and Routt County in partnership with the Steamboat Pilot Today. I am the editor, Lisa Schlichtman, and I'll be moderating the panel today. What we're going to look at today are the new public health orders that were issued yesterday in Routt County. We're going to look at the intent behind the orders and how they will be enforced, among other topics. Before I introduce our panelists, I do want to point out that we are practicing our social distancing. We're all 6 feet apart, and that's very important. And I also believe, if I understand the new orders correctly, we are also following that based on the square footage of this structure. So I just want to be sure everyone realizes we also are following the orders that we're asking the community to follow. So let me begin by introducing our panelists. We have Routt County Commissioner Beth Melton, Steamboat Springs City Council President Jason Lacy, and Steamboat Springs Police Chief Cory Christensen. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being so open and transparent with our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. So we're going to start, and like in other panels, I will ask a series of questions. These have been gathered from the public that have emailed either the city or the newspaper. And so we're going to begin with an explanation of the 2 new public health orders. So Beth, we'll start with you. I want to look at those 2 separately. So the first one deals with short-term lodging visitors. Could you explain that order, please?
Yes, absolutely. So that order impacts lodging. It went into effect yesterday, Tuesday evening at 5 p.m., and directs that all lodging, including hotels, motels, short-term rentals, and campgrounds, may not accept any new reservations or visitors, and that they may not make any new bookings or reservations for the period that the order is in effect, which currently is until April 24th, although that could be extended or reduced depending on the circumstances. It also directs that reservations beginning on or after 8 a.m. on March 27th shall be canceled. And we're working together also with the Lodging Association to get people out as quickly as feasible if they have folks staying there currently.
Very good. So then let's talk about the second order, which deals with public gatherings.
Yes, thank you. So there are 2 components in this second order. The first is that congregating with more than 5 people who do not reside in your household is not allowed. And when folks are in groups, that physical distancing of 6 feet shall be maintained. The second part is working with retail establishments, businesses, including restaurants, grocery stores, to create some specific restrictions to increase the social distancing and reduce the potential for contact within those businesses. Excuse me. On both those orders, I just want to note that a critical piece of this is that law enforcement has authority in enforcing those public health orders.
Okay. Did either of you all want to add anything about either of those 2 orders right now?
No, I've got nothing.
No, I think Beth covered it well.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Jason, I'm going to ask you this question. How important is it for our community to follow these orders? And secondly, is this something the city supports as well?
Well, it's absolutely vital. These decisions, I know we've been consulting with the county and public health officials and other municipalities about these orders before they were implemented. And it's crucial that people follow these orders. The reason these were put in place, this is all based on guidance of best practices from public health officials at the local, state, and federal level. All you have to do is look around the world to see places that didn't implement these kind of changes early enough that they're regretting it, and they wish they had done so earlier. So it's very important. The city wholeheartedly supports this. We're seeing and hearing of some instances of people gathering in a lot of places, which is natural. As humans, we want to be social creatures. We want to talk to our friends and neighbors, so when you go to the post office, the gas station, You're in your neighborhood, you want your friends and family to get together. But right now, we really need to take these extra steps based on the guidance we're receiving from our public health officials, so that way we can maintain the health and safety of our community. And public health and safety is number one beyond everything here. So that's why we support this order from the county, both of these orders, and we really think it's going to make a big difference in keeping our community safe.
Right. Beth, anything you would add to that?
No, yes, we really appreciate the partnership with not just the city of Steamboat Springs, but the other municipalities as well in determining what critical health and safety measures were needed. And as Jason said, this really was in response to some behaviors that we've been observing. I believe that people want to do the right thing, and we think that these orders really just give us the ability for our law enforcement officials to see someone gathering in their neighborhood and just remind them that's not allowed, that's not safe, and hopefully this raises the degree of understanding of our community of really what is necessary and how extreme that is,
right,
for them to be able to do that.
And maybe the chief could touch on, the goal here is obviously compliance. We're not looking for ways to find extra tickets for people or anything like that. So Chief, I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Absolutely. I mean, the sole goal is voluntary compliance. I have given direction to my officers as well as and Hayden Police Department, Oak Creek Police Department, and the Routt County Sheriff's Office have all adopted this guidance, and it's really 3 steps. The first step is voluntary compliance, is help people understand why this is important. Help people understand what the public health responsibilities are and the problems there. Phase 2 is the county commissioners did give us the authority to enforce these orders, and there is a state law that we can enforce. And that can lead up to a $5,000 fine and 18 months in jail. That's step 2 for us. We would prefer to never have to give a ticket. Our job is to inform people, educate them, and get them to disperse voluntarily. Step 3 is incarceration. And this is one of the exclusions that our chief judge has put into his orders that we can incarcerate people for. A violation of public health orders is one of the areas statewide, but our local judicial district has put this in our means to incarcerate someone. We really don't want to get there. We really want people to voluntarily comply. And I will add, with limited resources, the more you voluntarily comply, the less I actually have to engage in working on public health order violations. We've got a lot of other work that we still are doing, and we would prefer not to have to come break up your block party, for example.
Thank you. Jason, maybe you could address this. Why did these orders come from Routt County and not the city or another agency?
Sure. Thanks, Lisa. So I've received a lot of questions about this, and I think this is a kind of a good educational exercise in a way for people to understand the different roles that the county and the city play in the community. So Routt County is the public health department. They are the Board of Health. They truly run all matters related to health issues in our community. So they have the public health expertise. They have the public health director. They have the public health officer. They consult with the state, CDPHE, the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, to learn about and implement best practices in our community. And they also, of course, consult with federal officials as well. So it's important for people to understand that that's where the public health expertise lies, and that's why we rely on the county to help us in that role. So we support them in that as much as we can, but that's truly a county operation. Also, emergency management is a county function, and you're seeing that now with the implementation of the Emergency Operations Center, which the county manages. So they're really taking the lead, and both City of Steamboat Springs and other municipalities around the county, we're supporting, and other agencies are supporting them as well as much as we can to help implement the public health orders that we're seeing. Also, just from a practical standpoint, I think it would be problematic if we had municipalities that were issuing different orders across our county, because that would create a lot more confusion and people would have a much harder time knowing what the behavior guidelines actually are. So if we had one order in Steamboat Springs, a different one in Hayden, a different one in Oak Creek, or no orders in one or some of these, and then we had a countywide directive, I think that could create even more confusion than we're seeing right now. So I think the structure is a good one. I think it's just something people are maybe a little bit unfamiliar with. So that's why the orders came down as they did.
Okay. Beth, anything you would add to that?
I think Jason explained well what the county's authority is. There is statutory authority for public health, which is given to the local public health agency, which is Routt County in this case. The Board of Commissioners also serves as the Board of Health, and we employ a medical officer and a public health director. And so this is the authority of the county, even inside of the municipalities. And then to the emergency operations functions that Jason was speaking of, I think it's helpful to understand that that type of response is similar to what we might do if there were a wildfire. That's a coordinated response. We talk about mutual aid, which means that the city provides resources to us, the school district is providing resources, various entities across the county, and those resources are coordinated through the emergency functions of the county. And so it's been helpful to me to think about what it would look like if we had when we have wildfires. It's a similar kind of function which the county is responsible for coordinating.
And Chief, I would ask, how are law enforcement agencies working together at this time?
Very much so. I do want to add that I think that I very much appreciate the leadership that the county has provided in this particular event. I'm in on a lot of meetings. The cooperation and the collaboration amongst all of the municipalities in the county is pretty amazing. And we take that down at the law enforcement level. I think the quality leadership we're seeing from the county level has been a good model for us in law enforcement now. We're now in the combined law enforcement facility, so 90% of your law enforcement lives in one building, which is helpful for conversations, which is helpful for coordination and collaboration. But both Chief Mayor and Chief, I call him Chief T because I can't say Tuloszewski, but the Hayden Police Chief, have been active participants. We talk multiple times every single day in coordinating what we're going to do. We're reporting out. It's really important that we're paying attention to our first responders, to our law enforcement who can come to work, making sure they're healthy, making sure they're not worried about problems at home so they can serve their communities. And we are working every single day and talking a lot, which we already were, to be honest. We've already had a great set of law enforcement in this county, and the cooperation and collaboration is just increased.
Thank you. Let's see. Who did the commissioners confer with before issuing these two orders? And I think I was going to direct that to Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. So the commissioners reached out and they continue to collaborate with a lot of people across the community. So I'm part of a policy group that meets every day at 1 p.m., 7 days a week. And this group provides policy input to the county commissioners. So this includes representatives from the city of Steamboat. We have representatives from town of Hayden, town of Oak Creek. We have representation from Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We have lots of different agencies around the community that are providing input as part of that policy group to help make recommendations to the county based on what they're seeing, what they're hearing out in the community. So there's really a good funnel of information coming to the commissioners from many angles. And then the policy group is really a great avenue to hear really some of the main concerns and questions that we're seeing out in the community. So it's been a really effective tool.
Beth, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, thanks for answering that question, Jason. And I would just add that we also are in close communication with the chamber to have discussions about business community.
The school district is in there too?
Yep, the school districts are participating. And And then, of course, as the Board of Health, we are relying very heavily on our medical officer and the public health director to help us understand what the best practices and the medicine and science behind these decisions is.
Thank you. Let's see. I guess what ultimately is the intent of these two orders? Beth, do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jason touched on this a little bit earlier, but ultimately the goal is public health and safety. And obviously we've seen across the country and across the world how important these measures, these types of measures are. We need to reduce the possibility of spreading this virus, of contact with others. And in the short term, as Jason said, we saw some behaviors out in our community that were troubling to us, that we believed were contributing to the possibility of spread, and we believed we needed to take swift action to curtail those. We're continuing to evaluate the need for anything additional, and ultimately, it's that idea of lowering the curve, if you're familiar with that, and just making sure that we are ahead of this and we're not waiting for a worst case scenario before we act. And really, in the end, also as Chief Christensen said, our ultimate intent is voluntary compliance on the part of our residents, and we believe that people want to do the right thing, but we really have to back that up. We need to send a stronger message to our community about what folks need to be doing in order to protect health. So just in short, our ultimate goal here is to reduce contact between individuals. That's what we have to do to slow the spread. And so whether it is in something that is covered in this order or not, I think our plea to everyone is to really do their part in reducing contact that you have with people outside of your household in any way that you can.
Jason, would you add anything about intent of these?
Yeah, I think Beth said it really well, but really the intent is just to protect the health and safety of our community. That's really the bottom line focus of what this is all about, because that's job number one, and that overrides any other consideration that we would have, and that's why we fully support the orders that the county commissioners have put into place. And I do want to emphasize, this is something that nobody took lightly before they implemented these orders. These are based on best practices and what we've seen happen around the world, and these steps will help make sure we can flatten the curve, and we can make sure that our hospital and medical community can handle any issues that arise here. So that's why we really support everything that the county's doing on this, and we really encourage people to comply, because we've seen some people take some steps as far as, we mentioned the social gatherings earlier. I've heard about people having friends over to their houses and having parties and sleepovers and with kids and things like that. These are the kind of things that we have to, although it's painful and it's, we don't like to do it right now, we all want to be there and help each other. The best way we can help each other right now is by following these mandates.
Chief, is there anything you'd add about intent of the orders?
Well, I think to add that it really is about, as a community, how do we fight this, in all honesty, and we're all looking for a way. We're a great community. There's just no doubt in my mind about how awesome the Yampa Valley is, right? And it really is, as a community with guidance, we can beat this, and I think that's really the idea behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. We had a very specific question that was asked of us. This person asked, I have friends who are planning to visit and would be staying at my house. Is this allowed? Beth, maybe I'll have you
Absolutely.
answer that.
So I'll just refer back to my answer to the previous question, which is that we really need everyone in the community to be a partner in reducing contacts. And so While that kind of activity probably is not strictly prohibited under the order, I would urge people who are in that situation to ask their friends not to come. I think Steamboat, we really pride ourselves on being a welcoming community, and unfortunately right now we don't have the opportunity to do that. We have to limit visitors coming in to the extent possible, and we really need community members' help in doing that. And so I would really ask anyone who's in that situation to please ask your friends to stay at home and to come this summer or next winter when we're ready to do that. I think it's important to understand that we're a small community, we're a rural community. Our hospital right now is in good shape. They've conveyed to us everything is fine right now, but we are all expecting that there will be an increase in cases, and we have to do everything we can to prevent our hospital from being overwhelmed. And so every person who is in town is another potential person who might need hospital services. And so I want everyone to know that right now the hospital says they're fine, but they are anticipating and we are anticipating that there will be an increase. And so the fewer people we have here who do not live here, the better we can ensure, or to the extent that we can, that the hospital has the capacity and the resources they need to serve the community.
Great, thank you. Chief, what should people do if they see people violating these orders?
Well, I don't ever want to discourage people from calling law enforcement. We do always try to talk to people about being good neighbors, and if it's possible to be a good neighbor, be a good neighbor, and have that conversation with someone if you can do it safely, right? But I always love to tell the community, you're not bothering us when you call us. That's what we're here for. And what I would recommend is they call the non-emergency number. 911 is not for this kind of call. We will actually prioritize this below a lot of other kinds of calls. But our Routt County Communications is fully staffed. They're doing a great job. And anyone can call 879-1110, 879-1110, and that is the non-emergency number to the Routt County Communications Center. They will, and you can be anonymous if you want. We've had a few of those already. We've responded to several of these kinds of calls already. And just know that what we're going to do is look into it, seek voluntary compliance, and move on, if that makes sense. But you're not bothering us if you call us. So give us a call if you think it's important.
Thank you. Let's see. Jason, this one is, I'm going to direct first to you.
Sure.
We know that these orders are going to further impact our local businesses and our lodging properties. Was this something you considered and the county considered before issuing these restrictions?
Absolutely. And you know, we obviously all recognize the drastic impact that this situation is going to have for all of our business community, from lodging, restaurants, retailers, and every other business out there. My business is not exempt either. We will all have economic impact from this situation. But at the end of the day, what I think what we're hearing from the business community in general is that they understand and appreciate the seriousness of the situation, and they're helping us pull together in this time to implement these changes for the best of the community, because they know in the long run this is the right thing to do. And if we're going to get to the other side of this situation, which we will, it's going to take all of us, including our businesses, including our local governments, and all the organizations that support our community, coming together to get us to that other side. And so I'm really encouraged and to know, you know, we mentioned earlier on the policy group that the chamber's involved in that. They're already helping plan for the recovery side of this. They're already putting resources and plans into place so that they can help support the business community when we get to the other side of this, which again, we will. So, yes, we absolutely recognize the seriousness that this the serious impact that this will have on our business community, but also I think we feel, and why we support this, is that we think by taking these measures now, it's going to make this time of pain for the business community be shorter than it could have been if we did not implement these changes.
Beth, would you
Yeah, I
add to
can
that?
follow up. Thank you. And yes, we absolutely have been in close contact through the chamber, through the Lodging Association. I yesterday participated on a call with the Lodging Association, and honestly, it was one of the most uplifting things I did yesterday because every single one, unanimously, that group expressed their support for the orders that were issued yesterday. They said, thank you for doing this. We want to protect the health and safety of our community. And I will, I guess, just state what I stated to them, which is that that means a lot to us, and I think probably to Jason in the work that we're doing. These are really, really hard decisions that we do not take lightly at all. And we recognize this is at significant personal and financial sacrifice for these businesses, for these lodging establishments to express their support for this. And I think that underscores the importance. And we appreciate their support and the community's support for recognizing that the number one consideration has to be public health and safety. And it's unfortunate that economic impacts have to be number two, but they are, and they will be. And as hard as that decision is, that's the right prioritization, and we'll continue to emphasize that.
Right.
Chief, anything? on that?
Nothing.
Okay.
One thing I did want to also throw in there, Lisa, we are trying to help the community during as far as their financial impact that they're having right now. So we have extended sales tax payments that were due for February they were normally due March 20th. We've extended those to April 20th. And we are going to look as a council at our next meeting to look at potential additional extensions to try to help the community get through this. I know it's a small thing that we can do, but there are also, and I know there are a lot of people out there that are not just the businesses, but also just employees who, they've lost their jobs. They're wondering how they're going to get by, and some people who live paycheck to paycheck. That's why I'm encouraged to see all the resources that the Chamber and the Workforce Center and other organizations are putting together to try to help those people through this time. Because again, we will get to the other side, and I know that we're going to provide the support that people need to get to that other side. So I just wanted to mention that.
And if I could follow up from the county side, because we've
Yeah.
had a question about extending tax deadlines. So I'll just give a little civics lesson briefly, which is that we are a statutory county, meaning that our rules are established by the state when it comes to those things. And so Routt County does not have the authority to change those deadlines or waive those fees unless the state grants us that authority. Steamboat Springs is a home rule city,
Right.
and therefore has authority to do that on their own. So that would.
Yep, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a question that we've been asked. And then I just wanted to reiterate our relationship via our emergency operations center with the chamber and with the business community. So in an emergency operations structure, there's always a recovery function, and right now that recovery function is being coordinated by the chamber. So that means that there's a representative from the chamber who participates in our twice daily emergency operations center briefings and is coordinating directly with that emergency operations center. So this is like what you would see after a hurricane, for example, when people need to have their homes replaced or those kinds of things. You can think about it in a disaster recovery kind of scenario. And we have representatives from the chamber working directly with the emergency operations staff to coordinate that function of our operations.
Cory, is there any further advice to the public you'd like to offer on behalf of local law enforcement agencies?
Absolutely. There's a few things out there. First, I kind of want to point out, it's in times like this that we see the generosity of our community, and we receive offers of, we'll bring you some food. We see offers of usually foodstuffs because we run on our stomachs. But and EMS is in the same boat, and I would like to say thank you, but don't offer. We are not taking food for obvious reasons, right? I think that's a violation of social distancing, in all honesty. So we appreciate that. We'll move on from there. The other thing I want to say is that the rest of the world in law enforcement has not stopped turning. People are still stealing cars, stealing things from other people, breaking into businesses, beating each other up, speeding, parking illegally. All these things are going on. And I want to tell the community that we're out there still doing our job. I have received comments from citizens that have said, well, other communities are no longer enforcing the law. Why are you? Usually they have a parking ticket or a speeding ticket in their hand when they ask me that question. And, now is actually more of a time for normalcy. Just because there aren't a lot of visitors in town doesn't mean you can park wherever you want, I'll be honest. The easiest way not to get a speeding ticket, parking ticket, or any other ticket is to obey the law, right? That's a simple statement. But we're still out there. I am currently fully staffed. All of my officers are healthy. We are out being very visible, and we are there to help. But I do want to mention something nationally, and I just take this opportunity. One of the things that happens when you see people shut in, and you see people now somewhat isolated from their friends and their neighbors, is the issue of domestic violence or sexual violence. And nationally, we are seeing an increase in this particular area. Locally, not so much just yet. We're kind of standard, but we are seeing an increase locally. And I do want to tell people that there are resources. Advocates of Routt County is our domestic violence, sexual assault advocacy group here in the county, and they're available. They're working. They are working from home, but they are working. And there's a number that you can call should you need them. And their safe line number is 970-879-8888. So 970-879-8888. And that's really important to me, that people have resources that they can reach to. And then I'll finish by saying I ran our calls for service numbers at the end of last week, and we're up over 10%. And people aren't here. And that concerns me greatly. So our calls for service are up over last year, and we have fewer people in town. So that's telling me that the fewer people in town are creating more problems. And I would just ask that you don't, in all honesty, that, help us, right? Help us, help you, and we're here for you. We are the helpers, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much.
May I add, Lisa?
Yes.
I thank you, Chief, for addressing the domestic violence situation. Another thing that we're very well aware of is the increase in mental health concerns that come as a result of isolation and of people having to be home. And so I'll be sharing our Routt County website here at the end, and we do have links to mental health resources there. But this isn't easy, and I don't know what the best thing we can do is, but we want to make sure that people are aware of the resources that are available to them to support mental health during this time, and not to hesitate to reach out to those resources as needed.
And I would mention at my days are going together at Monday's town hall, we did have a representative from Mine Springs, and they are doing a lot of online, they're there kind of like advocates, the same, and they are starting some really kind of cool Facebook live events that are helpful. And I also mentioned, because I think this is also a hard time for the recovery community, and AA and NA and our Sober Steamboat group are all offering online resources as well. And I don't think we can say that enough.
Yeah, so, thank you.
Beth, we have had some questions with actions that are being taken in Denver. Is the county considering issuing stay-at-home or shelter-in-place orders?
So we are always evaluating all options. We continue to pay attention to what's happening, to have these conversations internally. We are definitely putting preparations in place were one of those kinds of orders to be needed, and there would be several ways that could happen if we determined it was necessary locally, or if the governor were to issue a statewide order, there would be some local action that would be required in order to implement that. And so we are preparing for the possibility of that happening, but have not made a final decision on issuing such an order at this point. And Jason's been in those conversations, so I don't know if you'd like to say anything else.
Sure. So this is a discussion we've had at the policy group level that I mentioned earlier every day. And I think it's just important for people to know we are working on a plan for that if indeed an order such as that were to be necessary at the local level. And we're working through all the logistics of how that would look. So one of the key pieces of that is how you would define what is an essential business. And that's what you kind of see when you look at the orders around the country and different states. You see different variations of, what's defined as an essential business. So, for instance, when you look in New York City, I believe Wall Street is determined to be an essential business. So here, I don't think we would have that same order here. But we're definitely working through the policy group with all of the different jurisdictions and agencies that are helping with that to help talk about what would be an essential business if we ever had to get to the point of ordering such a stay-at-home type order. And also, we're also talking through how it would look. Obviously, we want people to still be able to get outside, so we're talking about how that would look because, people staying at home all day and all night can be a little problematic. So we will be talking through how that would look if indeed such an order were to be implemented.
And I just want to follow up that while the way that we're talking about this may sound like bureaucracy to some degree, we understand the urgency. We are definitely not just waiting around to figure out if this is necessary or not. We are very actively working on this possibility. We have heard loud and clear from many of our constituents that they believe that the tipping point for this is already here, that this is necessary, and we hear those comments and we understand them. As Jason said, there are a lot of specifics about what such an order would look like, and we are actively having those conversations every day. We do believe that the orders yesterday are one step in that direction. They're not the complete shutdown of all non-essential businesses, but they were the steps we could take immediately, and so we moved forward with those two steps. We also are hopeful, I don't know if that's quite the right word, but I would emphasize to our community that the more you do your part in limiting contact and spread, the less these kinds of orders become necessary. And I believe that in a lot of cases, we're already functioning in the capacity of what a stay-at-home order might look like, as long as people are doing their part and are following the guidance and as well as the rules that have been put out. Everyone, I believe, is aware that the governor did issue an order for all non-essential businesses to reduce their on-site workforce by 50%. That applies locally. So that order, in combination with the two orders that we issued yesterday, I believe get us very close to what a stay-at-home order would look like, but we are continuing to prepare what it would look like if a full local order were warranted.
As a point of clarification, could you all describe what a stay-at-home order is, what a shelter-in-place order is?
I'd maybe ask the chief, because you've been involved in these conversations, to explain why what the distinction might be.
So we really use shelter-in-place as a means for an immediate public safety emergency, such as an active shooter type situation, and it's really dire, right? It's shelter in place, hot, stay away from your windows, lock your doors, right? This is really extreme from the standpoint of, from a law enforcement perspective. And honestly, we don't want people to get confused, because that is not what we're going to tell you when we ask you to stay at home. Okay. Stay at home means stay at home, right? It means hopefully we're going to see grass soon. It means you can cut your grass, right? It means you can. Well, I'm going to have to rake my yard, but you could do all those things, right? And you're at home, but we're not. We're trying to address a public health issue more so than a public safety issue, and so in the law enforcement realm, we really didn't like that people were picking up this shelter in place conversation because it really has we don't want to dilute what it really means, and so that's why we focus on this stay-at-home conversation.
And I believe from our perspective, if a stay-at-home order were to be issued, it would be, like Jason said, the closure of all businesses that are deemed non-essential would be the next step from what we have already done and what the governor has already done. And like Jason said, we're aware that, like in Italy, for example, people aren't allowed to leave their homes at all. And that is a whole other, that's sort of a next level of what something like that could look like for mental health reasons. And because we're fortunate to live in a place where people can be outside and can still maintain distance, I don't think that is being considered yet. It's that there are phases of this that could be considered. And so it's working through that and implementing these things as appropriate.
Sounds great. Getting down to the end of this panel, it's been great and very informative. I've been writing things down and learning as you talk. I guess lastly, where can people find additional information about not only these orders, but just general information about COVID-19 locally?
So we're trying to funnel all information to the same place, and we appreciate that we can never do enough in communicating to the public, and that we are continuing to try to increase the ability to communicate important information to the public. And so to that end, we appreciate the patience of folks while we really ramp up very quickly on some of these communications functions. And so I'd like to direct people to the website that we have set up specifically for this response, which is COVID, COVID, the number 19, routtcounty.com, and perhaps you all can post that with the video, COVID-19routtcounty.com. And we're trying to really direct everyone to the same place, and where there are other resources available in the community, we're linking them there so that we can really make sure we have a single point of contact for people to find everything they need.
Yeah, in the city, we also have, obviously, our website, steamboatsprings.net. We are including a lot of information there. Also, we really want to support the county and their role, again, as the public health agency here, and kind of getting information. People really do need to look there, obviously, for really important information regarding public health. But there is a natural inclination for a lot of people to send comments, questions, concerns, complaints to the city, for better or worse. That's kind of part of our role here, and people naturally look to us. So we're trying to do our part to both support the county and also provide resources to people and answers to questions that they need. So you'll see on our website, again, steamboatsprings.net, you'll see updated press releases. You'll see we've started to do a daily update that both myself and Commissioner Melton, we're going to be participating every day. I'm going to tape that in the mornings, and we're going to try to provide the most relevant information that we have based on test results, positive cases, things going on in the city and the county, important things, and just really give people relevant information that they need to hear about what's going on, how your daily life is changing, and how we can help you get through it. So we have that. Also, Beth, I don't know if you want to mention the helpline that the county has if people want to call in for questions.
Yeah, let me just pull that number.
And while she's pulling that up, we also have an email that if people have specific questions that they'd like to hear on our daily updates or in other press releases or through the paper, we have an email at covid@steamboatsprings.net. That's COVID at steamboatsprings.net. And we'll be happy to use that to funnel questions and get information, whether it's from the county or the city or through the paper. We're happy to do that.
In that helpline, we do have folks answering the phone 7 days a week from 8 to 5. I want to emphasize this is not for emergencies. Emergency calls obviously should go to 911, but that's 871-8444, 871-8444, and folks can call that line. We're glad that we were able to put that up. That's alleviated some of the pressure on our public health director to respond directly to questions. And so we'd like to encourage folks to direct their questions there rather than directly to our public health director.
Thank you. So I want to end by giving each of you an opportunity to, say something that maybe you weren't asked about or that's on your mind or your heart. So, Chief, I'll start with you.
It's never good to let me go first. No, I guess for me, it's really more about, we are resilient people, in all honesty, and we're together. And I came to the Yampa Valley 4.5 years ago and have loved every single minute of it. And it's because of the people. And it's because of the community. And it's because of the way we treat each other and how we deal with each other. And I think we have to remember that. We have to remember that there is another side to this. There's an end. This will be done. And in the end of the day, we want to look back and be proud of how we treated each other.
Right.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, I recognize there are a lot of people out there that are concerned. They're scared. There are a lot of people, and it's on many different levels. I mean, people are scared about the virus. People are concerned about their economic strength. Some people living paycheck to paycheck. How are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to stay in their apartment or their condo or their home? Businesses wondering, hey, are we going to be able to keep the lights on for another month or two? But what I want people to understand is, while we can't promise when this emergency is going to end, I want them to understand that it will end, and we will get to the other side. And I know it's hard for people to see that light at the end of the tunnel, but I actually see it, because when I look around and I see all the people stepping up to support the community, to support friends helping friends, neighbors helping neighbors, strangers helping strangers, everything I'm seeing about people supporting as much as they can our local businesses and supporting our local food bank, and all the people stepping up here among our local governments and agencies to try to help get us through this crisis. That's how I know that we are going to get through this, because the Yampa Valley, Routt County, Steamboat Springs, and all the municipalities here, everybody here has watched out for each other for generations. And I know we're going to get through this, and we're all going to keep working, and we're all going to keep doing our part so that way we can get to the end of this.
Thank you. Beth.
It's hard for me to add anything. I thank you both for your comments. This is really hard, and I think there would be few of us who would say this is not the hardest thing that we have ever had to do in many ways. And I want to just acknowledge everyone who this is hard on various levels. There are people who can't work right now and are struggling to deal with that. There are people who are trying to manage work while taking care of their kids, which is not something that they are used to having to do. And all of us have joked about it a little bit, and that's good to keep some levity to the situation, but that's hard too. And we're all trying to work through this really scary and really hard situation, and the tool that a lot of us have for dealing with these has been taken away from us, because we can't give hugs to one another and interact with our friends. And so I just want to acknowledge how hard this is, and I don't think there's a single member of our community that is not challenged by this situation. And so acknowledging that, and then saying that I, like these gentlemen have said, really see some glimmers of hope and in all of this, and seeing that people are coming together, that not physically, but socially, and are reaching out to one another to ask, what do you need? How can I help you? I feel like every email I've gotten, every 10,000 of them, every day, someone ends with, how are you doing? Are you okay? And have gotten phone calls and texts. And I hope that everyone is taking the time to think about who you can reach out to and just check in on them and offer any support that you can, because this is the time we need each other the most, and we have to be really creative and think in new ways about how we do that. And so I want to encourage everyone to do that. And then I would be remiss if I didn't give a huge amount of acknowledgement and gratitude to all of the people that I have seen working so hard on this. We have emergency operations folks, we have public health folks, we have volunteers, we have human services, our public works and our transportation and our medical professionals. I couldn't even go through the whole list, but I'm seeing these people working 10, 12, 16 hours a day to make sure that our community is safe and healthy. And I want to provide a huge amount of gratitude for the work that is going on, and also offer that as a point of reassurance to our community that we have people doing a lot of work that you don't necessarily see, but that is critical in keeping our community safe and healthy and planning ahead. So I hope that all of us are really just finding the positivity that we can in all of this, taking care of ourselves and taking care of our neighbors, and continuing to do our own part in getting through this crisis.
Wow. Thank you all very much for participating. I appreciate your authenticity, and I know you all are working so hard. And I hope this community appreciates that. I know that's not why you're doing it, but it's very obvious to me. I also want to state that the newspaper is here to also provide information to the community, so please reach out. A good email for us is always news@steamboatpilot.com. My staff is working around the clock to try to get accurate, fair, timely information out as well. And I do have to give them a shout out because they're amazing. And I get a little emotional.
Sure.
Lastly, we are going to be doing another panel on Friday and on Monday. I think our plan for the near future, which seems to change at the moment, is to have these 3 times a week. So continue to send your questions to covid@steamboatsprings.net, and you can also send those to the news@steamboatpilot.com. Again, I thank anyone who is tuning in this morning. We appreciate you, and like I say, I don't think there's a better community for us to be joining together yet apart, but we are in this together, and we will get to the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.